Good morning. Happy Saturday morning. It is like 3:30 in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so woke up and made me some probiotic tea with some lemon in it. I don't know, I have stomach has been bothering me, but all's well. But I'm trying to figure out what my content is going to be. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll do one on my unpopular opinion when it comes to finances. All right, so stay tuned. All right, so I'm wide awake and ready to go. So I want to let me touch down on the subject of financial abuse. I talked about it before in the past, in the early stages of my YouTube channel, but I need to bring this back to the forefront because financial abuse is on the rise and it's talked about, but not consistently because a lot of you are still going through it, and some of you don't realize you're being financially abused. So I want to break down some of the red flags. And me working in banking, my 20 plus years of banking, I've seen this on a daily basis, and it's really sad, especially among elderly abuse. The elderly gets hit hard with financial abuse, which is so unfortunate because 9 times out of 10, it's a family member that's committing, this crime against, the elderly. I've seen it. I've seen it head on in real time, working in my bank working days. So I don't work in the bank anymore. So I just bring my experience, what I've learned here. But let me talk about financial abuse itself. Again, financial abuse is domestic abuse. Let's just get that out on the table because that's exactly what it is. And let me talk about some red flags about financial abuse and how not to fall for financial abuse, and especially if you're dealing with a narcissistic person. A narcissistic person, when it comes to finances, narcissistic people want control. Just to know that for a fact. They want control, they want attention, and they want power. So let me break down some of the traits for you to watch and for you to not fall for. Okay, example of financial abuse. Somebody coming to you, telling you, begging you or forcing you to co-sign on the loan or on accounts that you do not, that you're not comfortable with. And usually if you tell them no, of course they'll cause a big drama scene and pretty much guilt you into trying to co-sign on a loan for them. So that you don't want to do. Did you know that financial abusers, no matter if it's a woman or a man, will always seem to attempt to ruin your job? In other words, create drama by texting and calling, fabricating stories, having you taken off work, unnecessary foolishness, which can cause you to put your job in jeopardy. And unfortunately, it's kind of done on purpose. So that, believe it or not, that's a form of financial abuse because they're putting your job at risk, especially if it's done constantly. Okay, that's another red flag. Okay, so what about a situation? Honestly, I can't speak on financial abuse in marriage, even though it happens, unfortunately. It's in it, and it's very realistic because I'm not married. I can't really comment, but it does happen, whereas the spouse will take the other spouse's entire pay, take their total control of their hard working money, but Sadly, it happens, but I can't even comment on it because even though it's unfair, it does happen. And if it's there's a lot of people that go through that. I know, especially women. Some women, I don't know, sometimes it could be cultural difference, or I don't even think it really matters. I feel that if you are working 40 hours a week, getting your pay, and then you have to turn your entire pay over to your spouse instead of sitting down, you two budget out where you can have some of your money for yourself. It happens, sadly. Me not being married, I can't really comment on it, but unfortunately, I will say it is unfair. And if that's something they've been dealing with for a long time, then, unfortunately, they're pretty much suffering in silence. So that's another unfortunate example of financial abuser. Like I said, they take total control, and it happens. Another example, you have roommates splitting bills. One decide that they don't want to pay their share, which will probably ruin your credit. That's another form of abuse, because now if the lease is in your name, then you have to take on that responsibility because they didn't pay their share. And that's also a form of abuse, because especially if you knew, that you're supposed to pay your share of the rent. And this happens a lot, especially situations like this in small claims court, whereas you stop paying your portion, and then it falls on the person whose name the lease is in. Okay, so how do you leave a financial abuser if you are, especially if they are a narcissistic person, which to me is probably one of the most dangerous people to live with, because they're mass manipulators. How do you leave? Especially, I see this with a lot of women. How do you leave? And you know what? Unfortunately, I wish I had a simple, easy answer, because honestly, it's hard to leave. How do you know? I know this because when I worked in banking, I have talked with so many people over the phone, in person, that has gone through this. Some of them were blessed enough to get out of it, and some of them cannot get out, cannot escape, because why? They don't have their own financial means to escape that the horror of living with a financial abuser. Okay, now I'm going to say this, okay, and has nothing to do. This is not a feminist talking points. Please don't. No, we're not going to do that. That's not. This is just plain uncut, organic honesty from my point of view as to what to do to prevent falling into a financial abuser's trap. That start out nice, but then they get weird on you and want to control your narrative, your financial narrative. Yeah, you're being physically abused, emotionally abused, and that other word abuse, I don't want to say on here because you know we're on YouTube. But financial abuse is not talked about enough. It is, but not enough, because it's happening all over. Some people say, "Well, that's cultural." No, it's not. It's in the black community, white community, Hispanic community, both so on and so on and so forth. Okay. Have your own money set aside, because it may come a time. So let me put it this way: you'll have enough set up where it's time for you to leave, because sadly, it is not easy for women to escape living with somebody who is an abuser. Just because they're paying the majority of the bills does not mean you have to sit there in silence while they tell you talk down on you and stuff. Yeah, but just get your own, get your own, get your own. That's all. It has nothing to do with being selfish. It has a lot to do with being self-sufficient and secure. Okay. Check that. Now check this out. Please understand, no one has the right to own your finances. When you give an abuser the right to control your money with manipulation, you give them free power. Reach out to someone trustworthy and let them know you're being financially abused. Again, there's power in having your own money. And on that note, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And I'll see you on the next video.